So smile, please, everyone. So yeah, to all the people watching, it's a small group, but hello and welcome to the sixth chapter of the Yatri story, which is based on Techpreneurs, how we can use tech to achieve scale, how we can use tech to achieve impact, and a lot more. So today we have with us five amazing guests, and we'll talk about their journeys, their learnings, and how we can use technology to achieve the maximum impact possible. So I'll introduce each one of them in short, and obviously, I'll ask them about their journey so that you can get to know about what they have learned throughout and an experience. So we have Varun Jain, who's the CEO at Default with us. We have Deepjang Thapa, who is the co-founder of Critical. We have Rasik, who is the co-founder of Get My Parking, and we have Prince, who is a product manager at Apna and the co-founder of Bombay Local. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on a Sunday. That too, such a chilly one. Um, I'll just ask you, in brief, to introduce about your journey thus far and what led you to find, or to start the startup that you have. So we'll start with Rasik.
Okay, so you want to know about our startup story? That would have to go back to Jagriti Yatra because I and Chirag met in 2012 Jagriti Yatra, and he was just one of the 400 people in the train. And उस वक्त हमने कुछ ऐसा सोचा नहीं था कि हम कुछ करने वाले हैं. इनफैक्ट दीपजंग को जितना मैं जानता था उतना ही मैं चिराग को भी जानता था. We were all in the same yatra, so Prakalpa वगैरह, we were just friends. None of us wanted to do startups immediately at that time. But then that was 2012. 2013 में I started doing my MBA at FMS, and that's when I came to Delhi. Chirag at the time was working with carwale.com, and while working there, he was having this constant desire to use technology to solve automotive problems. So he looked at multiple automotive problems. He decided that there's a lot happening already for other problems. कुछ ना कुछ है सर्विसिंग को लेके, रोड साइड असिस्टेंस को लेके वगैरह वगैरह, बट पार्किंग के लिए कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. And that's how he started thinking about it. Then after researching a lot, he decided to create a team. 2015 में फिर उसने मुझे फ़ोन किया. At that time I was finishing up my MBA and I was placed with PepsiCo. In fact मुझे placement offer नहीं मिला था क्योंकि I had a placement offer directly from my first year. I was the first person in FMS to be placed with Pepsi through an international case study competition. So I was pretty chilled. I was like, अभी मैं न्यूयॉर्क वगैरह जाऊँगा. The competition had, as a winner of that competition, they took me to New York. I met Indra Nooyi, the international board of PepsiCo, and they offered me a job over there, an international placement. And then Chirag calls me one night and says कि प्लान क्या है. मैंने बोला कि 2 साल पेप्सी में काम करूँगा और फिर खुद का स्टार्टअप करूँगा. I was entrepreneurship cell का president at FMS, so he knew that मेरे को startup में interest है, and of course जागृति यात्रा से हूँ तो वो तो उसको पता ही था. But he calls me up, says कि but तुझे सोडा वाटर क्यों बेचना है 2 साल के लिए? Let's do this now. तो उसको वो स्टीव जॉब्स ने जो डायलॉग उसके CEO को बोला था वो उसको यूज करने को मिला मेरे ऊपर. तो it was, I was like, it couldn't have been more funnier, but I was like, ठीक है, point है. And so I rejected Pepsi's offer right out of FMS. We both started this. He was quitting his job with Carvale at that time. And we started by digitizing a small parking lot in Noida, Spice Mall, Noida. And we had no idea. हम दोनों भी किसी भी parking के background से है नहीं, by the way. मतलब we both come from middle class, humble backgrounds. हम दोनों को कोई parking या real estate का कोई experience नहीं है. So we had to spend 13-14 hours a day on the ground to understand कि parking business है कैसा, होता क्या है इसमें. Mafia वगैरह सब बोलते हैं, but चलता क्या है operations on ground. And then we realized what are all the problems. We realized यहाँ solutions की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है, digitization की, transparency की, and we started creating those solutions. And the MVP we created a very shitty MVP, मतलब so embarrassing कि मैं मतलब कभी वो ऐप को वापस देखना नहीं चाहता. But nonetheless उस shitty ऐप के साथ भी जिसको हमने operator ऐप नाम दिया था, we started digitizing the parking operators operations. See, we realized that in any unorganized market, now this is an insight, a takeaway that the audience can have, is that that's what we have learned कि किसी भी unorganized market को digitize करने जाते हो तो supply को पहले digitize करना पड़ता है. So बुक माई शो ने भी पहले मूवी थिएटर्स में जाके 3-4 साल के लिए बुक माई शो के फाउंडर्स ने कंप्यूटराइज्ड सॉल्यूशंस इंस्टॉल किए थे, ताकि जो बालकनी और उसके टिकट्स मिलते थे ना, मैं स्टॉल टिकट्स, बालकनी टिकट मूवी थिएटर में बचपन में, तो वो कभी तो कंप्यूटर से मिलने शुरू हो गए प्रिंटेड. तो वो जो ट्रांजिशन था, वो ट्रांजिशन में बुक माई शो का भी हाथ था, सो दैट द टिकटिंग गेट्स डिजिटाइज्ड, द इन्वेंटरी गेट्स डिजिटाइज्ड, एंड देन दे हैव द डेटा टू सेल दोस टिकट्स ऑनलाइन. Same thing happened 30 years back with airline industry, with the hotel industry, 20 years back बुक माई शो के साथ 15 साल पहले. रेड बस ने भी वही किया 10 साल पहले, 10-11 साल पहले रेड बस ने भी पहले एक अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर बना के, फरिंद्र सामा एंड हिज टीम इंस्टॉल्ड इट विद द बस एजेंट्स. सो दिस इज अ साइकिल, दिस इज अ पैटर्न. अब गेट माई पार्किंग ने भी वही किया. हमने भी पार्किंग ऑपरेटर्स के पास जाके पहले उनके सप्लाई साइड ऑपरेशंस को डिजिटाइज करने के लिए, टिकटिंग को डिजिटाइज करने के लिए सॉल्यूशंस इंस्टॉल किया. And that's how we started getting the live count of the inventory, parking में क्या हो रहा है, क्या price पे क्या जा रहा है, and then we were able to sell that online to the consumers through a consumer app. So the consumer app, the demand side always comes later, supply comes first. That's what we learned. But what we learned later on was that कि पहले 2 साल में 2015-2017 we realized that we have like we have good solution, but Indian market is not yet mature. यहाँ पर अभी उतना value नहीं है parking real estate का. Parking is a real estate, and that as a real estate doesn't have much value today in India. So we as a technology enabler in this less valued real estate business are going to earn very less money. So it doesn't make economic sense कि हम वो इंडिया में करते रहे. So we pivoted, we went outside, यूरोप में गए. हमने बोला सबसे ज़्यादा पार्किंग कहाँ पर महंगा है, यूरोप में है, तो वहाँ पर जाके पहले देखते हैं. एंड लकीली वी वन सम कॉम्पिटिशन्स. यूके प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने हमें अवार्ड दिया as top 10 Indian startups. We went there and then we signed up Europe's largest parking operator as our customer. So we realized कि हम जो यहाँ पर चांदनी चौक के ठेकेदारों को डिजिटाइज कर रहे थे, वैसा ही डिजिटाइजेशन बर्लिन के भी सूट बूट पहनने वाले ठेकेदारों को चाहिए. So our first customer internationally was a multi-billion-dollar parking operator, which once upon a time was listed on stock market there, went private by a private equity firm, very big. So their all tech operations today, after so many years, are dependent on our technology platform. Their app, their all operations on the ground are run on basis of Get My Parking's technology. And so that gave us a lead way, and then we started slowly expanding to US, South America, Middle East, Southeast Asia, etc. So today you can say we are in 17 countries. 2,500 plus parking lots are digitized with lakhs of car spaces onboarded on our platform. And जो हमने digitization दिल्ली में शुरू किया था, वो digitization हमने पूरी industry में as a pioneer, we are moving it forward. And don't get me wrong, there is no, ऐसा नहीं है कि technology Western countries में थी नहीं. There was a lot of technology over there, but that was mechanical automation. जैसे आपके building में lift या elevator होती है, वैसे. तो सब मैकेनिकल ऑटोमेशन था पार्किंग के दुनिया में. काफी कुछ था बट मैकेनिकल था. इंडिया में मैनुअल था, वहां मैकेनिकल था, बट डिजिटल कहीं नहीं था. सो वी वर द फर्स्ट, वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट पायनियर्स हु डिजिटाइज द पार्किंग सप्लाई, द ऑपरेशंस ग्लोबली. And that's why today we are working with so many people. And then we did a lot of other things, but then that will take more time to explain, so I'll just stop now.
That's a lovely comprehensive introduction, Rasik, and a lot of things to learn from there, a lot of things that kind of, intrigue that curiosity inside me, and I'm sure the people who are watching. I'll definitely ask a few more questions on that in the coming few minutes. Now I want Deep to introduce himself and how he went on to co-found Critical.
Yeah, thanks, Rasik. That was quite insightful. In fact, couple of notes we bana liya maine. So yeah, 2012 I went to Yatra. So I think I was always means I always wanted to do something of getting into entrepreneurship and everything. So first year in college, I used to sell cigarettes, momos, whatever was possible, whoever was buying it. So I'm from Nepal, so I used to bring cigarettes from Nepal and sell it to the nearby panwalas. So we're figuring out what to do, how to make money well in college and everything. So Pawan, who is my one of my co-founder, who is the CEO as well, um, we used to do a lot of things together. And then his email ID got hacked in second year, Gmail account, and then we started figuring out how can an email account get hacked. I mean, Gmail account get hacked, right? And that was the point when we started learning more into the security thing, and then figured out that it's not just the technology, but how exactly we use the technology is, uh, more exactly the thing. What exactly can lead to hacking, right? So how exactly we manage the password, how exactly we assess the internet and everything. So from that point, we started giving training workshops into cybersecurity in nearby colleges, universities in Allahabad. So we were studying in NIT Allahabad back then, and weekend we used to do that. And so second, I think the first college we went to train, we made some money, and with that money, in that second college when we went to train them, they asked for invoice or something. It was more like a fun thing. And for the invoice, we had to register a company. So the money that we made from the first workshop, we registered the company with that money, and then we got this pan number and everything, and then we started invoicing. So after college, the whole college thing, went by just by giving workshops and majorly all of this weekend activities. So after college, I went to Paytm and I got a placement in Paytm. So I was working as product manager over there. I was looking after bill payments, recharges, Metro card. So if you do this, Delhi Metro card recharge. Yeah, so I was looking after all of this. So parallelly, after Paytm's this 9 to 5 job, we used to get together again, and we used to work till midnight, trying to figure out what exactly we can do. So we moved into services thing. So we figured out that we have a lot of college alumni and who are running their startups, their big companies, or they are placed in decision making positions in a lot of companies. So we started connecting them, and we started getting business from them in terms of services. So we started as a security testing, VAPT, code review, all of these things. The one thing that we realized from service was it was really painful to scale, in the sense that if you need to scale, then you need to hire more people. Like as many customers you bring in, you need to deliver, you need to get in more people to serve them. So that scale model was getting quite difficult, and we raised some couple of funds. And at that point of time, we met one of the person from South Africa, and we got a requirement for building a product into people awareness within the company. How do you track people's awareness level in terms of security? How do you train them? How to exactly monitor their progress in terms of security awareness? If they can be hacked to any kind of phishing attacks, sophisticated social engineering attacks. So we built that product for South African postal office. It's a postal office in South Africa. They never bought it, but that product we sold it to Max Life Insurance, which is in Gurgaon. And then that product today is being used by almost 80 plus enterprises, majorly banks, SDFC, RBL, Kotak, airports, Tech Mahindra, Birlasoft, all of these guys. Yeah, so then that's how exactly we entered into product segment. And after that, we again built two more products. And when we started serving the majorly Indian customers, again we realized that the SaaS industry. So we now from service we started entering into SaaS industry. The SaaS industry had a very big problem in terms of um, I think acceptability, number one, number two, pricing. If you see, if you try to sell an Indian product to Indian customers, they would see more. They would very much negotiate with you on the pricing front. They wouldn't value much in terms of quality, but they would more focus on in terms of pricing and things, saying that I've got like four products, four vendors with me, and everyone is delivering the same thing. They started viewing security more of like a compliance rather than building the whole security infrastructure within the company. So that realization came a little bit late. So if there is anyone who is trying to start SaaS business, I think you need to go global from day one. So don't just focus on Indian market. It's going to be very painful, very long. The learning curve it's going to be. So this and we started exploring outside market. So it's been almost like 2 years that we started exploring Middle East, and we went there. We tried to explore. We went to individual banks, insurance companies over there, and we started selling. We tried to sell actually, so no one bought it. And then we again realized that it will be very difficult for us to go as a new person, new company to a new market and then try to sell. So we started exploring for partners. So this pandemic, when we realized that okay, India mein to abhi, people are trying to reserve their cash and they're not trying to spend on new things, new initiatives. So we started focusing on Middle East and US. So this pandemic was a kind of a good thing for us. So we partnered with a couple of distributors in Middle East and we started getting orders from them. So today we have around 40 clients in Middle East during this pandemic time. And in January, so first week of January, we launched in US as well. So through one of our partner uh, over there, and we in the span of I think 2 weeks, we got around 200 customers. These are small size customers, but then yeah, we got an entry point into US now, right? So this has been a very wonderful time where exactly there was a lot of pain for us during pandemic. Customers were moving out. We started giving free services to them, free product services to them, because we wanted to maintain that relationship and then so that they can renew next year. But then again, that pain actually shifted our focus to newer markets, and then we started expanding to that area. Yeah, so this has been the journey so far. And if anyone is trying to start any kind of SaaS business, you have to go global from day one. Don't just try to focus on India. It's going to be very painful. Yeah, that's the story.
Thanks so much, Deep. I think we used the term SaaS. SaaS is software as a service. Again, a lot of insights on this, and I'll ask you about that part where you said you have to go global from day one. I think that's a really interesting insight you have given us. Um, so now coming to Prince. So Prince has also had a pretty interesting journey. He founded Bombay Local, and then he's also working at Apna as a product manager right now. So Prince, would you want to highlight your journey?
Okay, so my journey has been, a very has very ups and downs. I was a graduate from IIT BHU 2012 to 2016. Started a company called Craft Emporio in 2015, basically my third year. There, it was basically an e-commerce for handcrafted products. We ran it for 2 years, earned some revenue, uh, got so many vendors from all over India. But e-commerce thing did not, succeed that much, because ऐसा होता है कि handicrafts में एक तो जो लॉजिस्टिक्स है वो काफ़ी चैलेंजिंग है, और प्राइसिंग भी क्या होता है कि अगर हाई प्राइस है तो कस्टमर ऑनलाइन कोई खरीदेगा नहीं, वो किसी प्रीमियम स्टोर के पास जाके खरीदेगा, और लो प्राइस है तो उसमें मार्जिन नहीं है। तो इसलिए 2 साल के बाद हमने इसको बंद कर दिया। फिर क्या हुआ कि मैं एक एज अ प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर मैंने एक कंपनी ज्वाइन करी, एक स्टार्टअप। वहाँ पे 10-11 महीने काम किया, वहाँ छोड़ दिया। उसके बाद फिर एक स्टार्टअप हमने फिर से शुरू किया, इनशाइन नाम से। एंड दैट इनशाइन, यहाँ पे हमने क्या किया कि बेसिकली वी प्रोवाइडेड ड्रोन सर्विसेज टू गवर्नमेंट क्लाइंट्स एंड कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज। तो ड्रोन सर्विस बेसिकली क्या होता है कि मतलब जैसे मान लो एक रोड बन रहा है, रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है, तो पहले क्या होता था कि बड़े बड़े इंस्ट्रूमेंट से लोग सर्वेइंग करते थे। अब क्या है कि सीधा ड्रोन से ड्रोन फ्लाई किया हमने उस एरिया में और उसको डिजिटली मैप कर लिया, तो एक बेसिकली हाई रेजोल्यूशन मैप बन जाता है ऑनलाइन। ठीक है, तो ऐसे हमारे क्लाइंट्स NHAI और ये ऐसे कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज थे। फिर हमने ये रियलाइज क्या किया कि दिस सर्विस दैट वी वर प्रोवाइडिंग टू दीज क्लाइंट्स, दे वर नॉट एबल टू इफिशिएंटली यूज इट एज इन जो हमने प्रोडक्ट डिलीवर किया। तो उसके बाद उसको प्लानिंग में, उसको प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट में कैसे यूज़ किया जाए, तो फिर हमने एक डिजिटल प्रोडक्ट बनाया, प्लेटफॉर्म बनाया, जहाँ पे बेसिकली उस पूरे एरिया को विजुलाइज कर सकते हैं ऑनलाइन, ब्राउजर बेस्ड ऑनलाइन, और उसी पे से ही सब सारी प्लानिंग कर सकते हैं कि मार्क कर लिया कि लेट से यहाँ पे कंस्ट्रक्शन करना है, यहाँ पे कुछ लेट से डिमोलिश करना है, ये रोड लेट से इसका अलाइनमेंट क्या होगा, किस डायरेक्शन से जाएगा, सारे एक डिजिटल डेटाबेस भी क्रिएट कर सकते हैं सारे एसेट्स का। तो ये हमने किया। उसके बाद हमने क्या किया कि इसी प्रोडक्ट को थोड़ा बाहर भी ले गए, बेसिकली यूएस के क्लाइंट्स, यूएस के ड्रोन कंपनीज के लिए भी हमने ओपन कर दिया। पहले इट वाज अ वेरी क्लोज प्लेटफॉर्म फॉर दीज क्लाइंट्स, और उसके बाद फिर हमने ओपन कर दिया। तो कुछ मतलब 100 के अराउंड यूएस और ब्राज़ील से हमें क्लाइंट्स आए। उसके बाद मतलब ड्यू टू सम इश्यूज आई लेफ्ट द कंपनी एंड I joined another company. Joined क्या मतलब I joined Bombay Local. One of my friends invited me कि चलो साथ में काम करते हैं, and I joined Bombay Local. And Bombay Local is mostly into brand consulting. ठीक है, तो जैसे हम हमारे क्लाइंट्स वेदांतु और ऐसे स्टार्टअप्स होते हैं जो जिनको हम मार्केटिंग और मतलब इस तरह के सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करते थे। लेकिन आई वाज नॉट वेरी मच इंटरेस्टेड इनटू दी स्टफ, सो मैंने क्या किया, वहाँ पे एक प्रोडक्ट कंसल्टिंग डिवीजन स्टार्ट कर दिया। तो वहाँ पे बेसिकली स्टार्टअप्स के लिए प्रोडक्ट मैनेजमेंट कंसल्टिंग, उनके प्रोडक्ट्स बनाने में हेल्प करने लगा। फिर उसके बाद बॉम्बे लोकल में भी मतलब कुछ दिन किया, उसके बाद फिर मैं छोड़ दिया बॉम्बे लोकल। तो नाउ करेंटली आई एम वर्किंग एज अ प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर एट अपना। And Apna, to summarize, is a LinkedIn for blue and gray collar workforce. तो यहाँ पे जॉब्स मार्केट प्लेस भी है कि जहाँ पे कैंडिडेट्स कैन अप्लाई फॉर अ जॉब एंड कैन गेट अ जॉब बेसिकली। और दूसरी साइड ये है कि यू कैन पोस्ट कंटेंट, यू कैन इंटरेक्ट विद अदर पीपल। जैसे लिंक्डइन पे कैसे हम फीड है, हम ऐसा कंटेंट कंज्यूम करते हैं, लेकिन अपना पे हमने हमारा कॉन्सेप्ट ये है कि ऐसे वर्टिकल कम्युनिटीज हैं। लिंक्डइन पे तो क्या है ना, काइंड ऑफ यूनिफाइड फीड है जहाँ पे आप जाते हो और कंटेंट कंज्यूम करते हो और निकल लेते हो। यहाँ पे हमने थोड़ा सा ऐसा कर दिया है कि वर्टिकल कम्युनिटीज है कि ईच लेट से कोई ग्राफिक डिजाइन का है या फिर अकाउंट्स का एक अलग ग्रुप होगा, है ना, ऐसे बैक ऑफिस का ऐसा अलग होगा। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे वर्टिकल कम्युनिटीज हैं, और इनके लिए आपको फीड मतलब वंस यू लॉग इन ऑन द अपना ऐप, तो वहाँ पे अपार्ट फ्रॉम अप्लाइंग फ्रॉम जॉब्स you can discuss with people, you can grow. The idea is to engage these people on a more daily basis so that they can grow their career, they can learn skills, they can interact with influencers there, right? और मतलब अब इनको engage करने के लिए, यूजर्स को engage करने के लिए डिफिकल्टी ये होती है कि मतलब उनको क्या कंटेंट दिखना चाहिए, उनको क्या यूजफुल है। तो आई एम वर्किंग ऑन दोज पीसेस एंड वी हैव मतलब अराउंड 1 मिलियन वीकली एक्टिव यूजर्स हैं। तो मतलब थिंग्स आर गोइंग गुड इन दिस प्लेस आल्सो एड अपना, एंड वी आर एक्चुअली द मार्केट लीडर in this segment, this blue and gray color segment. In fact, Google has also entered the segment, and they have their app Google Cormo, but they just only provide the
For more jobs, yeah.
The marketplace side of things. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Prince. That was a lovely introduction, and again a lot to learn. I think I'll keep saying this along the journey also. That's what has really made me so excited to enter into this discussion. So now to Varun. Varun, how has your journey been with Default and before it?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, thanks, Aditya. So I think lots of ups and downs, lots of sideway action in my journey. I think to start with, it's irony that I'm a tech panelist today because I was never interested in tech in college. Hated programming to a good extent for 4 years, did not touch anything. Started my career at Deloitte Consulting, but within 2 months realized it was not meant for me for whatever reasons. I thought I'd rather sit at home than work at Deloitte Consulting. That's just a personal choice too. I'm not commenting on Deloitte Consulting as such. Started a couple of projects, saw some traction for about 3 to 4 years. I think I was working on my own products, working with some other team for 6 months, trying to figure out, sometimes as a co-founder, sometimes as a product manager. Largely built a skill set on tech and product, building tech teams, understood hiring in North India in particular, understood talent, understood my own talent journey because I'm a self-taught programmer and basically thrown into the deep end all of a sudden. So understanding how learning works, understanding what my own preconceived notions about technology were, coding were, programming were, and I think all of that led me to kind of AcadView as a venture. This was 2016, 17, 18 roughly. We started off with an idea of digitizing mark sheets for private universities in India. So what would happen is that we would get Excel sheets, 100 Excel sheets from some random university sitting in the middle of nowhere, and we would digitize that by writing certain framework and scripts to kind of extract that data out from those sheets. And of course, the challenge was that these sheets or this data was not generated by a computer system. This was pretty much manually entered. So it was really a problem of identifying which cell had which sort of data through a computer. Did this for about 7 to 8 months. Then we saw competition coming up from DigiLocker's end, in the sense that government had mandated that all universities have to digitize their mark sheets and certificates and everything else. And we decided, hey, maybe that's not such a great idea in terms of business models and everything else. And we pivoted to skilling, where the idea was to teach students from tier 2 and tier 3 universities how to code and make them employable. Uh, we, I think, scaled to a good number of students. This was done in live online lectures. So we were using Zoom back in 2016, 17 for online education, uh, making students do live projects like making an Instagram bot or something else of that sort. Very very practical oriented because I personally do not like theory as much. I understand the value of computer science theory, but at the same time, I think for a beginner, if it's like if you want to learn how to make a pizza, and I start talking to you about the acidity in the tomato for 2 hours, versus telling you that hey, here is the recipe, and you get a pizza which is not probably that great, but you have made something. That was the dramatic. I mean, for me, that is what is something which is very, very, very critically needed in any sort of education system, whether online or offline. So we did that. Made a lot of mistakes, I think, even there as well, on different sort of fronts. I left the company at some point, and I think a couple of months later, Upgrad came in and acquired it. But to be very blunt, and I think I don't know how many people here are not like non-entrepreneurs or people who are just sort of joining in. Uh, that entire episode taught me about this. So any notion about what you think an acquisition or acquire is about, throw it out of the window, especially in a country like India. So just throw it out of the window. Uh, a white hat junior or anything of that sort, if that is your beacon, you are really looking at an outlier. You're really looking at a massive, massive outlier when it comes to this country, right? In the very least. Anyway, moving on, I think in 2018, I was trying to figure out what to do. It is very confusing as an entrepreneur, as a tech entrepreneur. I think when you kind of end a startup, in terms of what do you want to be? I think, do you want to be a software developer? Do you want to become an individual contributor? Do you want to become an engineering manager somewhere? Do you want to start another thing? Are you ready for that another leg of the journey? Key? Because my primary body of work was not tech or not hiring, not product, not content. It was all of that. So that was a big question, and I kind of struggled with it for a while. But at the same time, I cannot sit idle. So I started consulting a couple of startups in their 0 to 1 journey in terms of helping them build their tech and product and team from scratch. And somewhere along the lines, I met my co-founders as well, who were also in the services industry for some time, and we decided that based on our personality types, based on our personal motivations, that this is what we wanted to do, which is essentially right now what we're doing is providing tech talent to companies. A few important parts which we have realized or analyzed to make our journey relatively easier being a services company is that the most important mistake or part of our job as founders is to understand which engagements to take on and not to take on. And that has been helping us quite a lot in the sense in the last year, even though it was a pandemic, we have said no to significant amount of business over and over and over again. It hurts every single time, but we just know that if we say yes to the wrong kind of client for us, uh, our happiness will probably end for 3 months or 6 months, and that is something that is a non-negotiable for us right now. So yeah, I think that should sort of tie it up in terms of I think my introduction for now, and rest I'll leave to Aditya for questions.
Thank you so much, Varun. Lovely introductions, all these, and I'll take up a few questions from what you said. So, firstly, with Rasik, Rasik pointed out a fact that supply is critical to ensure before kind of going to demand. So, whenever we think about starting up, as aspiring entrepreneurs or people who would want to start up sometime later, we always think that okay, if we ensure supply, and let us say there is no demand, what would we do then? So the general literature, what it says, usually when you read about startups is that okay, you come up with an idea, you first start selling your prototype, which can be an idea based prototype also, that hey, would you mind paying for this in advance and then I'll make the product. So, what's your view regarding this? Is it a risk to ensure supply before, ensuring demand, or do you do a lot of market study and see that there is demand, then you ensure supply, and then you back yourselves to ensure that that demand gets monetized?
Sure. Sure. So Aditya, let's not take what I said out of context. I said while digitizing any unorganized sector, the word unorganized is very important, where nothing is there
Got it.
today in terms of tech adaptation. You have to, the best strategy is to go after the supply side first, to first digitize the supply, get it organized, and then take it to the demand. Of course, this is always secondary. Any primary objective of creating a new venture is to ensure that your idea, your concept has enough market opportunity. There is enough share of market available for you to make it large, or to take it to whatever length you would be satisfied with. तो मतलब वो जो प्रिलिमिनरी आपके चेक पॉइंट्स होते हैं वो तो पहले करने ही चाहिए. इज देयर इनफ मार्केट अपॉर्चुनिटी, इज देयर टू मच रेगुलेशन हर्डल, व्हाट आर द एंट्री बैरियर्स फॉर कंपटीशन वगैरह, ये जो भी आपके बेसिक चेक पॉइंट्स होते हैं पहले वो इंश्योर ऑफ कोर्स करने चाहिए. बट उसके बाद once you are satisfied with all that and you are convinced you want to enter that market, the best course is to digitize the supply. तो अगर आपको कल काम वालों के लिए कोई ऐप लॉन्च करना है तो आप कोई कंज्यूमर ऐप लॉन्च करके कोई फायदा नहीं है जिसपे काम वाली को आप बुक कर सकते हो, पे कर सकते हो. फर्स्ट आपको किसी सोसाइटी में जाके उस एरिया के सारे काम वाली भाइयों को ऑर्गेनाइज करना पड़ेगा, डिजिटाइज करना पड़ेगा, उनको ऑनबोर्ड करना पड़ेगा, ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ेगी, और उसके बाद ही आप अगर कंज्यूमर ऐप बना के उसको लॉन्च करोगे तो फायदा है. To give you another example of an unorganized market.
So in this unorganized market, it would also be very difficult to onboard these people. So, when I was reading about Get My Parking, and, you were also there in our version of the Yatra. So you were there in one of the ERC, not ERC, it was a chair car session.
ERC.
So I loved, the idea of Get My Parking, and yeah, sorry, chair car session it was. So, I heard about, Get My Parking. I also looked it up. It would have been so difficult to convince all these, government stakeholders, or so many people in the infrastructure zone to kind of, come on board on Get My Parking, because there's a usual, thinking in any industry ki sab theek to chal raha hai. They think that it's theek, but they don't push for better, or they don't push for the present problems to be solved. So how did you go about talking to those stakeholders?
So it's I won't sugarcoat it. It is difficult. It is very, very challenging. Sometimes we look back and we are surprised, how did we even survive it? So it is always very challenging. There are multiple breaking points, many points when you want to give up, when others tell you to give up, that you face rejections from customers, investors, everyone, even with yourself, you feel ki, "Arey, kya kar rahe?" But that is part of the deal. If you're going after something which is untouched, the risk is high, the challenges are high, but the reward is also high, because then you are the first mover, you have that first mover advantage, you are the pioneer, and you have the opportunity to scale it up really big because no one else is there. So rewards are high, but you also have to circumvent those challenges first. There is no thumb rule, there is no mantra that I can give कि कैसे इन चीज़ों को पार करना चाहिए. The hard work is there. You have to put in the hard work. Persistent बहुत ज़रूरी है, and resilience is even more important क्योंकि you will fall back. There will be instances where you will break down, but what will matter is how do you get back up and keep doing. Uh, at the same time, थोड़ा बहुत guidance मिल जाए तो अच्छा रहता है. थोड़ा सा second hand wisdom मिल जाए from people who know better than you, so it might make things easier for you. Uh, but as an entrepreneur, you are always at your own best judgment कि कौन से advice को सुनना चाहिए नहीं सुनना चाहिए. I mean, considering all those complications also, you will have to go through that part. So yes, unorganized sector को target करते वक्त it is very difficult. हमारे cases में अगर एक दो examples अगर मतलब कहानी यहाँ सुननी है तो मैं दे सकता हूँ कि इनिशियली व्हेन वी वांट टू डिजिटाइज पार्किंग ऑपरेशंस, हमने डिसाइड किया कि कंप्यूटर्स इंस्टॉल करके कोई फायदा नहीं है. दे आर वेरी एक्सपेंसिव, बल्कि कंप्यूटर्स चलाने के लिए ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ती है बहुत ज़्यादा. यू नीड लिटरेट पीपल. नॉट हैपनिंग इन इंडिया एटलीस्ट. तो वी डिसाइडेड कि व्हाट्सएप तो सब लोग यूज़ कर पाते हैं. दिस इज 2015, राइट? एंड 2015 में भी पार्किंग ऑपरेटर्स, ठेकेदार के लोग भी मोबाइल फ़ोन यूज़ कर पाते थे. सो वी डिसाइडेड टू गो द मोबाइल वे. तो हमने एक मोबाइल ऐप बना के उस पर पूरा पार्किंग मैनेजमेंट सॉफ्टवेयर बना के डिप्लॉय करना चालू किया पार्किंग लॉट्स में, ताकि आने जाने वालों की एंट्री के टिकट्स, एग्जिट पे, चेकआउट, बिलिंग, रिपोर्टिंग, एमआईएस, डैशबोर्ड्स वगैरह सब कुछ ऑटोमेटेड उस फोन ऐप पे ही हो जाए. सो वाइल डूइंग ऑल दैट, हमें मोबाइल फोन्स भी देने पड़ रहे थे अलॉन्ग विद द ऐप, क्योंकि these people didn't have the reliable smartphones वगैरह, and you want to keep professional and personal things separate, right? लोग ड्यूटी पे काम करते हैं, शिफ्ट्स चेंज होती है, तो एक ही मोबाइल ऐप फोन के साथ वहाँ पर होना चाहिए. सो सॉर्ट ऑफ अ POS system. Now, if we had to give them phone or along with the app, we had to give them SIM cards also in it. And we started registering SIM cards on our names. We, as a company, we went to Vodafone, Idea, everyone at that time. No one gave us corporate SIM cards क्योंकि we were a very small startup, just couple of months old. तो उन्होंने बोला कि नहीं, आपके पास इतना इतना रिकॉर्ड होना चाहिए, ये सब होना चाहिए, तो ही आपको 50 SIM cards मिलेंगे. So we were not eligible. तो B2B SIM cards मिल नहीं रहे थे, तो B2C लेने पड़े अपने अपने नाम पे. बट यू नो, there's apparently a limit. अगर मैं मेरे नाम पे आधार कार्ड पे अगर 5 सिम कार्ड वोडाफोन के ले लूँ तो मुझे छठवा वगैरह नहीं मिलेगा. So we started getting blacklisted. तो मैंने मेरी गर्लफ्रेंड के नाम पे सिम कार्ड्स लेने चालू किए, मेरे मदर के नाम पे सिम कार्ड्स लेने चालू किए. तो we went through these things. This is just on the lighter side कि कैसे छोटे मोटे challenges होते हैं. You have to keep doing जुगाड़, you have to keep finding solutions until you make it to a long-term solution which works sustainably. फिर of course there's the mafia. We got a lot of threats. We were बहुत लोगों ने हमें ऐसे डरा के धमका के बता दिया कि ये नहीं चलेगा, आप हमारे इंडस्ट्री में नहीं कुछ कर सकते हो. हमें बहुत कुछ लोगों ने गुमराह भी किया, जानबूझ के गलत चीज़ें बताई जिससे हम और फंस गए. आई कांट गो ऑन रिकॉर्ड सेइंग मोर थिंग्स, बट ऐसे बहुत होता है. You know, fun fact, parking industry being a cash industry, especially heavy cash industry with very less regulation and oversight, it's full of politicians, it's full of corrupt people, it's full of, you know, it's just cash is rolling, right? So आप किसी भी politician को उठाओ, उसके किसी ना किसी relative का parking में business में हाथ होगा ही. So it's a very dirty business when it comes to the corruption and that side of it. But we were in it to solve it. So we were not going to back down by these challenges. We said कि इस industry में कुछ अच्छे लोग भी हैं, कुछ अच्छा काम भी करना चाहता है. So let's try to change this. And you know, always there's this transition. So we wanted to be the force which creates that transition instead of being the one suppressed by the pre-existing conditions. तो ट्रांसपेरेंसी लाना वगैरह, तो वो सब हमने काफ़ी कुछ किया उस पर काम. फिर गवर्नमेंट की आपने बात की, तो गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर पे हमने बहुत कुछ काम किया है. वी हैव वर्कड विद एटलीस्ट a dozen municipal corporation around the country. We have done 3 smart city projects. We have done some of the world's largest government projects like Kumbh Mela. Kumbh Mela के लिए हमने पार्किंग टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोवाइड की थी. प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी जी ने ट्विटर पे तारीफ की थी उसकी. फिर we had done lot of other things like IPL के लिए पार्किंग वगैरह, many other things. But the point is that government के साथ काम करते हुए we faced lot of challenges. It sounds really good now कि मैं से बड़े बड़े नाम लेके बोल रहा हूँ कि देखो हमने क्या क्या किया है. But trust me, it was so difficult to do each of those projects. We were not even a 1-year-old company. हमने हमारी एनिवर्सरी भी कंप्लीट नहीं की थी. We were just 8-9 months after incorporation जब हमने कुंभ मेला के टेंडर में पार्टिसिपेट किया था. एंड गवर्नमेंट प्रोजेक्ट में 3 साल 5 साल का क्राइटेरिया होता है, टर्नओवर क्राइटेरिया होता है, सबको पता है कि बहुत सारे एलिजिबिलिटी के प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं. स्टार्टअप्स को वैसे ही मुश्किल है गवर्नमेंट के साथ काम करना बहुत. तो उसमें तो हम तो 1-year-old भी नहीं थे, बट फिर भी हमने कुंभ मेला का वो प्रोजेक्ट जीता. So lot of learnings there कि क्या करना चाहिए, कैसे करना चाहिए. Each day was a challenge. Too many mistakes we did, but all those mistakes made just us stronger, and it prepared us for the longer haul. It prepared us to go international. इसलिए आज हम बैंगलोर और दिल्ली में बैठ के 17 कंट्रीज में बिजनेस चला पा रहे हैं इसी इंडस्ट्री में, पार्किंग इंडस्ट्री में. एंड ऐसा नहीं कि हमने अनऑर्गेनाइज या डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज को छूना बंद किया है. इवन टुडे वी हैव बिजनेस इन ब्राज़ील. तो मतलब ब्राज़ील इंडिया की तरह ही है या सिमिलर है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब we are shying away from these things, from these challenges. We are still facing them even across borders now, and we are overcoming them.
That's lovely. I think it's so inspiring that, the spirit of problem solving always wins over anything which is so unorganized, or, as Rasik said, even, in some ways the industry has a few corrupt people there as well. Rasik, abhi bhi threats aate hain वैसे? Now that, you're growing day by day and, people can see you solving this problem and they want it to be a problem, some of them. So
अभी चीज़ें काफ़ी चेंज हुई 2015 से कंपेयर्ड अभी 2021 में. तो नाउ दो सेम पीपल कॉल अस एंड से कि बॉस मुझे टचलेस पार्किंग सॉल्यूशन चाहिए. समथिंग आई वुड हैव नेवर इमेजिन्ड देम स्पीकिंग. एंड दे आर लाइक अरे अभी कोरोना में वगैरह क्यूआर कोड बेस्ड पार्किंग एक्सेस कंट्रोल कर सकते हो क्या? लाइक इनको क्या हो गया? So anyway, so things are changing, of course. It's taking more time than we would have wished for, but they are changing nonetheless.
it's a lovely, way to describe victory if, there were ever one. Because agar hum mindsets change kar paye, what can be bigger than that? And I think great example, great inspiring story. Thank you so much, Rasik, for that. And Deep said, that you should go global from the word go, if you're starting up, especially in SaaS. In India, and this is just my opinion, please don't take it as, something which is a fact. Like Deep, I also feel that sometimes people tend to negotiate prices based on the effort that you are putting in. So when they see a software which has already been made, they are like, क्या आप इसको हमें थोड़े कम दाम पर नहीं दे सकते? तो हर साल आपने तो बना ही रखा है, तो why can't you reduce the price for it? You are not pushing any labor for it, so they can't directly see the work being done from the backstage. So how difficult is it to negotiate these prices in India? And how difficult was it to get the first few customers, especially since you have such an amazing corporate client base?
Yeah. So first I think I'll talk about the customer acquisition. So customer acquisition, I think initially for the service part, it was quite easy. Means I wouldn't say very easy, but because we had connections through college network and everything, so it was slightly easier as compared to product. For the product part, it was very difficult because we had to compete with companies from Israel and US, right? And that was quite difficult. But what happened is, for example, one of our customer, PVR Cinemas. So today we take care of entire security for PVR Cinemas. So what we figured out is, so one of our mentor introduced to PVR Cinemas, and that was more of like a telephonic introduction. And we figured out, okay, 5-6 accounts in Delhi NCR where we had to crack. We want to get inside that no matter what. So PVR Cinemas, there's this IT guy, IT head. So I used to go to PVR Cinemas almost like every month and go and sit and try to, speak with him and try to get some meeting and try to get anything small POC or whatever it is. Right. And almost after 8 or 9 months, he called me back and he said, there is a breach in our system and we want your help. And we said, okay, we can help you, but so we'll take, and he was more of like, you need to do a POC kind of thing. And we said, we won't do a free POC because we had put in so much effort and we felt that, when he has called us, he's definitely going to pay us. So that first contract was worth, I think, very small amount, around 40,000, 90% discounted contract was that. And after that, they really got impressed. And today we take care of entire thing. And and second thing is, cybersecurity industry is very small community. It's a very, very small community. So if you see, there are around 250 security heads in the country, and they all are in one WhatsApp group, right? So we figured out how do we exactly get into those WhatsApp groups where exactly, we can have our say, or we can see what requirement is coming in. And when we had developed this product ThreatCop for South African Postal Office, and they didn't buy it, and we were figuring out what's the use of this product, where do we sell it now? And we got a requirement on WhatsApp group from Max Life Insurance CISO saying, I'm looking for a solution which can track people's security awareness level and also train them. So what this product does typically is, it's kind of a fire drill. So let's say we send you a phishing email, or we send you a ransomware attack. We call you, the system calls you, the SaaS product calls you, and tries to do some social engineering, and we track the behavior of employees, and based on that we give them a score. Let's say, employee vulnerability score. So every employee in that company has an employee vulnerability score, and based on this score, again, we train them, right? So this was kind of a product we had built. And from that WhatsApp, first customer we acquired, as Max Life Insurance, and they got a very, very great experience thanks to the team that we have. And they referred us to a couple of more people, and that's how exactly, we started, getting more customers. And then, yeah, we figured out that Bombay is the biggest market for cybersecurity, because all the financial companies are there. So we started partnering companies in Mumbai, and that's how we started growing it. It was a very slow growth initially, but then, yeah, word of mouth spread a little bit faster. Now for the pricing is like, a fish market. I'll tell you, even in IT. A very recent incident I'll tell you. So this product of ours, it does SMSing and wishing. So SMSing is attack through, it's like phishing. Email के through से जैसे phishing होता है, वैसे SMS through SMSing attack happens. Likewise, wishing is through calling. Now literally that customer's procurement team started negotiating, not on the product, but saying, okay, you'll send 10,000 SMS to 10,000 people, and you'll send 4 times, right? And this is the 19 paisa, it'll cost, let's say, per SMS, or 5 paisa, and this is your costing. And this is what people negotiate sometimes with you, and it becomes very difficult. But then I think, you'll have to counter it. And I started saying, okay, sir, then I've got like 3 people working here. I'll show their salary to you, and do you think that you'll be able to justify those payments and everything? And I want to increase the standard of life of my people who are working here, right? So that's how we get into that dirty negotiation, and then you come out of it. But yeah, so negotiation is really tough here, and the major part is, few companies value the exact the requirement, the whole quality thing over here. Because in security, what's happening is, more of people are here to do the compliance part, rather than get exactly what they're looking. It's not an internal requirement that they have generated. It's like a healthcare. We don't do a proactive. There are very few people in India who go for a proactive health checkup. There are very, very few people, if you talk in terms of percentage, I think, right? So likewise, in the security industry also, there are very few people, very few companies who proactively do security testing, or security products in place so that to check future hacks and everything, right? And these companies do value the whole quality and things, and majority of the companies, they go for pricing. So it's really difficult. But then, yeah, so at the end of the day, you can't be a global leader without being a local leader in India, right? So we figured out that even if we can go to Middle East, or let's say US or Europe, and if we are not have a very strong hold in India, then there's no point. If Israeli or US based companies come here and they wipe out the market and take the market share, there's no point we are going global. So yeah, today for that ThreatCop product, we are market leader here. Almost like 80-90 companies are using it. Yeah, so pricing is really a problem. But then again, so you need to figure out how exactly to price. And then for SaaS also, what happens is, let's say you give the product, and what we figured out is, you break the whole features into different pricing points. Like let's say, for example, phishing is the first one of the feature we give it, and then again we try to sell them another feature in after 6 months. That's how we try to increase the whole customer value throughout the year. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Deep. And as you very correctly mentioned, I think I also feel that sometimes it's like a preventive measure, which much like in healthcare, you don't take it until you suffer from it. So let's say if you have some stomach ache, you'll go to a doctor, but you'll never go for a full body health checkup before that to ensure whether your body is acting right or not. So added that added as a pressure point, along with obviously the fact that you have to show them the backstory. So as you said during your answer, that a lot of the times you have to also give them the backstory, that there are a lot of employees of mine working here, and I want to ensure the good perks for them. So that's why I think I'm commanding this kind of a price. So how do we focus on overcoming these challenges, because there are so many in selling SaaS products?
Yeah. Okay. So another very important thing with means it's, I think everyone understands with this also. Everyone agrees with this. It's relationship. This whole B2B business is driven lot by relationship. How deep, how strong relationship you have with the customer, and it's not just with the security head of the company for our case, but with the procurement, with the CFO, who's going to right, sign the whole payment and everything. So we started mapping this. Okay, let's say for example Max Life Insurance, or PVR. So how many people is going to make decision for this particular product, or our segment? And we started building relationship with everyone, so that if there is procurement guy, I know the procurement guy, my team knows the procurement guy, if there's any requirement coming in. So that also helped a lot of it, to actually overcome this pricing problem, right? Because when you have got a relationship, they would prefer to go for a company whom they know very well, and they could call anytime, and try to say that, okay, I've got this problem, now fix it, right? Yeah, so the relationship plays a very important role in B2B industry. And relationship is a more like of compounding, I think. For example, like say PVR, so we've got a very good deep relationship over there. So likewise with a lot of companies, when you start building relationship, and you start adding products, let's say one product you sell in the first go, and then you find out another problem the customer is saying, you already have a relationship, you send another product. So eventually sell in 4 of your products, and also you deliver services. So the whole customer value for a year gets quite a good amount, and that relationship is there. So yeah, so relationship is one of the biggest thing that can help you overcome this. And if you're in B2B, invest in relationship. Yeah,
And
that's
that's a lovely insight, I think, for all the people who are willing to enter B2B sales in tech or in other products as well. I think this is a great tip for all of us to follow.
this question directed to me here. Okay, so someone has asked, the we are offering tech security businesses, is there a potential market solution for individual security? Yeah. So how do we see your market again? So we thought, at a point of time, how can so the whole, the notion behind today's whole mission and vision that we see here in company is, uh, so privacy has become a very dangerous concern right now. Today, whatever we are doing, this call is being recorded. Not just you, but Zoom is taking whatever we are talking right now. If my phone is switched on, means having internet access, or if I've got an Alexa in my room, so everything is being heard, everything is being listened. My every movement is with someone else right now. My whole planning for the next 2 months is someone else. My whole company's plan is in Excel spreadsheet right now, in Google spreadsheet. So Google knows everything what I'm going to do, right? Now we don't realize this, even though we realize. So okay, we know this, we have the knowledge, but we don't realize this as in how much impacting it can happen to the whole society, right? So when we start valuing this thing, and maybe when people start paying for securing their data, their personal data, then it makes a business sense to get into individual security, right? But right now, if we enter into individual security, it's going to be more like a non-profit driven, which at this point of time for a small startup like us, it doesn't make much sense, right? Yeah, but then this is a very big need. There has to be a bigger player, or bigger you know uh, things backed by a lot of money into it, where exactly we can educate each and every individual that how their data is being tracked and everything. So just to add to this, we are working with a couple of companies to build a solution for kind of an enterprise grade security for CXOs, right? So, for example, we have got a lot of HNIs in the country, high net worth individuals, and CXOs of a lot of enterprises, and their conversation, their data in the system, their movement is very, very critical for the company's confidentiality, right? So how do we ensure that their data is completely secure, their system is not being accessed by someone else? When they get into airport or any public Wi-Fi, they get into through a secure tunnel so that the CCD doesn't know what exactly this person is browsing, or the airport doesn't know what this person is browsing when they are connected to the public Wi-Fi. So that's something kind of solution we are trying to build. Why? Because they can pay, right? So this again, so we need to build a solution where exactly people can pay. Now, if individual person people can pay whatever amount it is, then maybe the traction would be there, and then someone would build it, and maybe we'd also come into that zone. But at this point of time, yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's no market.
Thanks so much, Deepjam, for the lovely answer. And now coming to Prince. So, Prince, from Bombay local to Apna, and now you're dealing with a lot of the problems and solving the white collar and not white collar, the blue collar and the gray collar workers. So, how difficult is to get them to sign up for it, like the marketing and this aspect of helping them understand more about this product, how difficult was it for you to consider all the complexities, because having dealt with a lot of ITI learners and a lot of blue collar workers, their tech savviness is not to that level, where probably white collar workers will be. um, so the UX and the UI would have to be very simple for all of them. So how do you sit when you sit down for these ideation processes, or when you think about developing a product for them, what are the first few points that you think of?
Yeah, interesting question. So see, uh, if you look at the customer audience now, if you look at the target segment, our target segment is literally not that tech savvy that the premium white collar people are. So, matlab, if I draw a parallel, so whoever, let's say, when we look for jobs, we look for jobs on LinkedIn, Naukri.com or whatever platform, IM jobs, whatever platform that we use. ठीक है, तो होता क्या है कि हमारे पास एक लैपटॉप होता है, इंटरनेट कनेक्शन होता है ढंग का, हम फिल्टर्स भी कर लेते हैं कि यार मेरे को इस सैलरी का चाहिए, मेरे को इस लोकेशन में चाहिए. वी आर वेरी सोफिस्टिकेटेड इन टर्म्स ऑफ सर्चिंग. लेकिन इफ यू लुक एट द टारगेट सेगमेंट एट अपना, तो इनके पास क्या है, इनके पास a lot of users are very first time internet users, right? ये दो जब से डिजिटाइजेशन डिजिटल इंडिया प्रोग्राम वगैरह चल रहे थे, तब इंटरनेट पेनिट्रेट किया है, ऐसा स्मार्टफोन आ गया, स्मार्टफोन रेवोल्यूशन आ गया. तो these people are most of them do not have any laptop, right? So will have to be mobile first. So that's one. अब mobile first में भी if you look at कि what kind of UI are they comfortable with, ठीक है. इफ यू जस्ट आस्क दिस सिंपल क्वेश्चन ना कि मतलब यूआई तो हम बहुत कुछ डिजाइन कर देंगे ना, एनीथिंग इज पॉसिबल, लेकिन व्हाट इज इट दैट दे आर ऑलरेडी फेमिलियर विद, तो दैट इज व्हाट्सएप, राइट? तो जो हमारे इनिशियल डिजाइन थे ना, दैट वर वेरी सिमिलर टू व्हाट्सएप, कि व्हाट्सएप पे कैसे ऐसा मतलब हमारे लोग रहते हैं, हमको पे क्लिक करते हैं, उनका चैट पढ़ते हैं, राइट? तो अपना क्या है ना, दो साइड है, एक तो मार्केट प्लेस जहाँ पे आपको जॉब दिखता है, दूसरा साइड कम्युनिटी. तो मार्केट प्लेस में भी बहुत ही सिंपल सामने ही ऐसा हम दिखा देते हैं कि जैसे हम तो क्या फिल्टर यूज करते हैं, एज अ व्हाइट कलर लोग फिल्टर्स वगैरह यूज कर लेते हैं कि हम ये, लेकिन इनके लिए हम वो सारे फिल्टर्स पहले से ही यूआई में डाल देते हैं कि 15,000 से लेके 25,000 तक के जॉब्स, राइट? 20,000 से ज्यादा ऊपर वाले जॉब्स, फिर जो भी जॉब्स रेकमेंड करते हैं, तो वहां पे एक चैलेंज आता है कि हम कौन से जॉब्स रेकमेंड करें, राइट? कि अब जैसे क्या होता है ना कि अगर मैं बैक ऑफिस का जॉब देख रहा हूँ, तो उसी से पैरेलल एक अकाउंट्स का जॉब भी में भी तुम इंटरेस्टेड होगे, उसी से पैरेलल एक और भी किसी चीज में तुम इंटरेस्टेड हो सकते हो, ठीक है? तो ये जॉब रिकमेंडेशन में भी मतलब वी लुक एट दीज थिंग्स कि सिमिलरली ऑन द कम्युनिटी साइड में क्या है ना कि जैसे हमारा लिंक्डइन फीड है वैसे तो, लेकिन उसका जो डिजाइन है इज क्वाइट सिमिलर टू व्हाट्सएप, कि हम एक किसी भी कम्युनिटी में जाते हो, लेट्स से यू वांट टू जॉइन द अकाउंट्स ग्रुप, ठीक है। तो यू कैन, जैसे हम व्हाट्सएप में किसी ग्रुप में ज्वाइन करते हैं वैसे उसमें भी ज्वाइन कर लेते हो, और देन यू कंज्यूम द कंटेंट, यू इंटरेक्ट विद पीपल, यू सेंड फ्रेंड रिक्वेस्ट, यू सर्च फॉर अदर थिंग्स, राइट। तो डिज़ाइन में मोस्टली यही था कि it should be very simple, should be very simple, like a no brainer to for these people. ऐसा नहीं कि हम कुछ भी अगर हम फीचर सोचते हैं ना कि ये दुनिया बदल देगा इन लोगों के लिए, तो ऐसा नहीं होने वाला है ना। ऐसा ऐसा ही है। तो मतलब इट इज चैलेंज, एंड मतलब वी आर डूइंग गुड फॉर नाउ, या।
Yeah, I've been following the progress and it has been amazing. And coming at a time, abhi I think sabse important time hai apna ke liye as an app, because I was reading an article on the Indian Express the other day. About 12 crore people have lost their jobs since COVID-19. 75% of them being either small traders or daily wage laborers, or people who were working in the small industries. Now इनके लिए हमारा ऐप डिजाइंड है. So how do you see this your app and overall the future of work 2021 in that context, कि हम किस डायरेक्शन में जा रहे हैं और कैसे टेक्नोलॉजी कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर further development of the small sectors?
हाँ, तो at अपना मतलब our focus areas are two. One is getting these people employed, and second is skilling these people also, right? क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ vocational skills तो बहुत ही लैक करता है ना इंडिया में। मतलब इवन इन ऑल ऑफ अस हम मोस्टली क्या जानते हैं, मतलब कोडिंग के अलावा ये वो कुछ वोकेशनल स्किल्स नहीं जानते हैं। मतलब आई एम मेकिंग अ वेरी ब्लंट स्टेटमेंट, लेकिन इट्स ट्रू कि इंडिया में उतना वोकेशनल स्किल्स कम रहता है, राइट। तो हाँ, वन चैलेंज इज टू वन टारगेट एरिया इज टू गेट दिस पीपल एम्प्लॉयड। और एम्प्लॉयमेंट में क्या होता है कि जॉब डिस्कवरी, जॉब रिकमेंडेशन, एंड वो जॉब एप्लीकेशन है, ठीक है, गेट देम एम्प्लॉयड। लेकिन उनको करियर के ग्रोथ के लिए यू यू हैव टू डू समथिंग, वरना दे विल बी लेफ्ट बिहाइंड। तो उसके लिए फिर हम जो नेक्स्ट सोच रहे हैं वो स्किलिंग है, कि हाउ टू इम्पार्ट सर्टेन स्किल्स टू दिस पीपल सो दैट दे कैन ऑल्सो ग्रो इन देयर करियर। एंड यस, लॉकडाउन की वजह से भी हमें काफ़ी बूस्ट मिला, क्योंकि ऑब्वियस है बहुत लोगों ने जॉब लॉस करी, ठीक है, लेकिन देर आर जॉब्स विच यू कैन नॉट फाइंड एनीवेयर, राइट। तो एग्रीगेटिंग द जॉब प्रोवाइडर्स ऑन अपना एंड recommending these jobs to candidates on apna again is what we are solving.
That's amazing. I think at a time when it is most needed, it's solving for one of the biggest problems that we have right now.
Right.
I hope that in the coming future also अपना बहुत सारे लोगों के लिए जॉब सर्च में और जॉब एप्लीकेशन कैसे करना है उसमें डेफिनेटली हेल्प कर पाएगा. Now coming to Varun. So Varun, at default you make so many products and you invest your time, your effort into all these products.
Yep.
Sometimes it must become a bit challenging to kind of align yourself with the vision of different products, and as you said at the beginning, that's why we qualify customers and choose customers whom do we want to work with. So can you kind of list down some small pointers from the criteria that you use to choose customers, and how do you manage to align your vision with everyone whom you work with, and literally replace or act as an in-house team for them?
Right, right, right. Got it. So I think a lot of it has to go back to us as founders and also us as a team in terms of who are we as individuals and what do we want to do in life. And that is sort of I think for me, running a services company, that is the only way to maintain my sanity. Otherwise, you start taking on the nth edtech platform, nth LMS that you're building for somebody, or the food delivering app, and you lose the team. More than anything else, you lose the team. The money might be coming in, but the team is not happy or excited about working on anything challenging. So I think the first thing we tend to look at when we take on clients or customers on board is how much of an education would we need to do with respect to the building process for them. So Do they understand product management? Do they understand project management to a certain degree wherein it shouldn't be that I'm talking about, I mean, I'm not expecting them to be technocrats or I'm not expecting them to be necessarily product or project managers, but at the same time, I'm sort of expecting them to recognize their own boundaries and barriers. That if they do not know X, Y, Z about a certain thing, either they spend the time to understand that thing rather than just, kind of sidelining that as your problem, not mine, because ultimately it is a collective problem that we're trying to solve. So I think one is that. The second thing we tend to look for is uh, what are they expecting in terms of the quality, and like how important is that to them. While everybody speaks about it, everybody, if I ask, hey, do you want a quality product, nobody will say no, I want a half-baked product. But understanding how much and what it takes in terms of resources and the time that goes into building something which is a good product, which they would call as a good product or an app, whether there is a match there or not. So, for example, we do not take up startups now which are, or entrepreneurs who are very, very early in their journey. So, we kind of are not doing the 0 to 1 stage typically. Uh, because either, I mean, no disrespect to those founders, but either they are not funded yet, and yes, you can build something scrappy in 5 to 10 lakh rupees, but that's not the kind of development shop that we are. And so these are some of the things, and I think after some of these things are solved, then we start looking at how challenging the product is. So for example, I think something which was very challenging and exciting for us was Bijak. So Bijak, uh, it was straight catering to a tier 3 tier 4 audience. The design language was absolutely, you could not use something like a hamburger menu. They don't understand what a hamburger menu is. The initial versions that at least we worked on had a very simple, straightforward, like 3 options, 3 big tiles on the home screen, or 1 input per screen. We even rolled out our own custom numpad on Android. Uh, Another challenge that it threw at us was offline mode, right from the very get-go. So to those who are kind of, I think, maybe partly tech aware or maybe not, offline mode is essentially turning off the network on your phone and then using the app, then expecting the data to show up in the app. Or if you're submitting a form, it saves the form, and once you go online, it submits it to the server. So to kind of summarize and an answer to your question, we look at an understanding match in terms of whether the team, the client on the other end already has an understanding of how software is built, or they're willing to learn and we expect them to kind of be on the same page with us, or B, it is it is the product in itself comprises of a bunch of tough enough problems for us to tackle. Uh, these two things kind of, I think, end up making the team happy in terms of the working arrangement, and then it's a more truer engagement than, oh, ऐप छाप के देनी है, वो यूज करेंगे, वो जाने, हमारा कोई लेना देना नहीं है. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. And at your end also, I think pricing and negotiation, like Deep's industry might be a problem. So how do you deal with that? People, and I'm asking this since I'm a part of a few startup groups where I see some outrageous prices being quoted for an app which is supposed to be competing with the Ubers and the Facebooks. So
Exactly.
कि 50,000 में ये app quotes please. So
I'll give you hard,
how difficult is?
let me give you hardcore numbers around that, right? I think it's a small enough group, and I can. Uh, so we recently had an incoming inquiry for a fixed cost project. Number one, we don't do fixed cost. So we don't think fixed cost is very scalable, especially if you're building a startup. There is no maintenance mode of an app in a startup. You constantly are iterating. Fine. The founder is very, very interested in working with us. We negotiated back and forth. We said we will do an exercise of 3 to 4 weeks where we will nail down the requirements. The advisor on the other end was an Uber engineer sitting in Valley. There is a ground reality there. There's a ground reality here. If I add unit testing to the app, any product, your costing goes up. If I add performance testing, load testing, security testing, and these are all questions and expectations that were coming. Oh, your proposal does not have this, and this. And all I could say was, look, I understand all of this, but at the same time, you have been pining for a budget from the very start, or budget, or in the sense determining a cost. So if I added all of these, your app would be well worth over more than 1 CR is what the costing would come out to be. Anyway, we did the dance back and forth, and ultimately, at some point we said no. But anecdote apart, I think we are very quick in terms of mentioning our prices. That's the first thing we do. In the first or the second call, sales team, myself, everybody else has been trained, mention the pricing, uh, and go in with it. And in terms of explaining, right, it is relatively easier, I think, for us as compared to Deep, because we ask these teams that, look, if you were to hire the same kind of resource in the market, what would it cost you? Whatever it would cost you, whatever you think your imagination is, I'm charging a markup on that, because naturally I'm a business and I need to make money. People who understand that, well and good. People who don't, well and good. Ultimately, what is sort of playing in our favor in that way is understanding that we are sitting in a supply driven market. So my market is a supply driven market. It is not a like, and it really does come down to that fact, wherein it is about me finding those 10 customers who are willing to pay my price, whether in India or outside India, for multiple use cases, rather than negotiating in a grisly manner, or uh, going after companies or opportunities which say आज काम करा लो कल ज़्यादा देंगे. Like that is a straight no from our end. Like anybody who says that today I'm just small and I'm going to become big, that might become big, that's fine, but then you are kind of pitching to me as like I need to play an investor then, to really understand, do you have the capacity to raise funds, do you have the capacity to do operations, to actually make whatever you're getting built from me as a POC into that much big, and like, are you really going to come back to me or not? So I mean, these are some typical service company, I think, things that you end up facing starting in the starting, and you kind of have to build some principles around it, and just stick to them no matter what.
Very true. One last question, directed at you. So I wanted to ask you also, since I stalked all your LinkedIn profiles before coming into this discussion, I saw yours, and a few times you have mentioned that you like to, for things to move slow rather than, saying that move fast, break things, which is the usual lingo, which most entrepreneurs,
Right.
Have read about or have used at some point in their time.
Right.
So, would you want to explain that to us? That what's the ideology behind that, and how does that benefit you as a tech
So,
entrepreneur?
so I think we as a generation are getting a lot of our wisdom through Facebook quotes and Instagram inspirational posters. And Zuckerberg has said, "Move fast and break things," but he has broken the democracy of his own country at this point. And I'm sure, I'm like, let's see if he's able to fix that or not, right? Or WhatsApp has recently just broken its users' trusts, at least a certain user segment, wherein it has put up a story today morning, kind of trying to retain those users who might be going away. uh, I think ultimately any sort of such piece of advice being thrown out there is always very contextual, and you need to really think of how much of it applies to you in your context and your shoes, from being the person you are to where you were born and what you are doing and all those sort of things. Like you can't tell move fast and break things to an enterprise company. If an enterprise company is making vendor onboarding software for the Fortune 500, you can't tell them to move fast and break things. Coming to my own ideology, it's not about slow, it's not about any of this. I think it's more about understanding that this is a marathon and enjoying the journey. So I think TS founders tend to take this thing of this is what startups are about or entrepreneurship is about, which might be taking on pain of a certain kind. The pain might be a 16-hour work day for 7 days, 365 days. The pain might be of not attending family functions. The pain might be of not having personal time. The pain might be not traveling to Goa, and we justify that against I'm doing a startup. I think my journey till I think 2017, 18, at the end of it, it taught me that look, it has to be like an enjoyable journey, with funds, without funds. It has to be a marathon. So, and it has to be catered to me, my needs. And I'm an individual who kind of is like I don't know what Rasik is doing in Goa, but I've been living in Goa for the last 3 to 4 weeks. and I'm the one who's enjoying my weekends as well as working on my business. And it's growing at a pace. It's maybe not growing as crazy fast as a YC startup or something else, and that's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, uh, I think a lot of people also to kind of tie up a bow on it. One needs to understand whether you're doing a business or a startup, wherein a startup is growth, and a lot of time growth for the sake of growth, and a business is what you would call in Hindi colloquially as dhanda, or making money. And I'm very clear that I'm doing a business right now. I'm not doing a startup, so all of those posts or LinkedIn thing is coming from understand what you want to do rather than chasing a bar or barrier or expectations set by movies, culture, quotes, LinkedIn, self-help gurus, anybody else.
And Facebook posts in particular, I think. Thanks, Varun. That was a lovely answer. And glad that you brought up Goa. Two of our panelists are right now in Goa, including you. So that's a great way to sum it up. Um, so now, before we move on to the audience questions, this is a question that I had, and I'm not sure how much does it relate with techpreneurship, but it does relate with an educational component. And this is where I do most of my reading. So I was thinking that I would want to definitely ask all of you this question. Um, as techpreneurs, as people who are changing lives through technology, um, you might be thinking that how do we make the next generation tech aware, how do we make them understand the importance of technology, how they can learn stuff in here, and how they can use that for impact at scale, or for even small level impact. Now a lot of startups are focusing on this, and some in a good way, some in a bad way, according to different opinions. I just want to know your opinion on White Hat Junior and startups alike. um, how do we go about making coding, making programming, or making basic awareness of technology a part of the education system in a way that it benefits all people, and it helps them also when they grow up to solve problems like you're solving. So yeah, anybody can answer this. This is an open question, and I would just like to know your views on this.
So, just yeah, I mean, I have a history of posting about Bytec Junior a little bit, but haven't gotten banned till now. Let's see this one does the trick. So number one, but I think let me not focus on that company. Let me focus on the question. I think number one, it's going to become very important for people to not just the introduction to technology. I think that is already happening in one way or the other for younger kids and everything through iPads and phones. And I see it all around me, and I'm pretty sure all of you see that as well, where they're very familiar with, where they're very digitally native as compared to even us. I think a balancing act is going to be soon needed, wherein uh, I can notice my own patterns of going for the dopamine hit through LinkedIn or some other place. I think the first thing is not just I don't think introduction to technology in terms of as consumers is that much of a challenge. I think limiting the use to a certain extent, or understanding that it's not, don't go to the phone to bed with your phone, is more important. That's one thing. The second thing is uh, in terms of introducing people to it. The way edtech is doing that in India right now is very inorganic. It is being there are unnatural goals being tied to it. That if you do it, this is what you will become. And the concept, I don't disagree with the concept. Yes, everybody should learn how to program if they want to, if they feel like. But that is not the only way to become a rational or logical person, or to become good at physics, chemistry, biology. You could be doing other things in life which could make you rational and logical. And to kind of summarize it, I think there is this thing in the West where people take up programming as a hobby when they're 9, 10, 11, 12. Like people take up guitar or something else. That culture exists out there in the West. It doesn't exist here in India for sure. And I think it's going to be anybody who's attempting to do this should be doing it at like grade 5, 6, 7. But I mean, not as a, I mean, it should be introduced more as a hobby. Like the introduction needs to be done in a proper way where the kid builds something, feels a sense of joy out of it, and then continues to build out of it, rather than or you have to do it because marks are attached to it, or your career or your IIT is attached to it, or your college education is attached to it. That's a truer way of doing it. That's a truer way of doing anything, that you're doing it just because you are having fun doing it.
Thanks so much, Varun. Anyone else would want to chip?
Nothing to add on my side. He mentioned it quite well, Varun. Uh, Only that, yes, technology education is not really an education. Technology is just tools, and like Varun said, everyone is digitally native, younger generation especially. So they are getting used to those tools. The only thing is that maybe they need to know the limits of those tools and the side effects and the bad impacts, and also the security part of it. So what Dibjung is doing at corporate level, uh, small kids mostly are vulnerable to the loopholes of technology. So more than programming, what is more required is to how to keep it secure, safe, and comfortable, pleasant.
Yeah, so I think this whole game, the way I try to understand this whole game of startup, business, or even country, or even individual, so when we ask anyone how your business is going, ideally the question means how much money you are making. It has become this question's answer is I'm making this much money in the company, or this is the revenue of my company. So everyone's goal is to make money rather than it means we start as an we start when we start something, we start as we want to make an impact, we want to solve a problem. But when we start that journey, and then all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, how much money we are making, right? How much more money we can make. So what's happening is when this guys also started, they wanted to train people so that the best people or the kids who would like to get into coding and all, they can get the best of the knowledge. Now, eventually, when they raised funds, investors pressure, we need to make more money. And then how can we lure more people? How can we actually get in everyone to, get into our course? Okay, you can become Mark Zuckerberg, or you can be Bill Gates by reading this. And I think this whole system, even this, whole WhatsApp thing, now they want to monetize WhatsApp to the maximum, level possible, right? Because it's not the pressure of the whole, let's say it's not just mind of Mark Zuckerberg, but they want to increase the share price, they want to increase in their dividend, they want to increase the whole valuation of the company. The whole idea has moved from impact or in a positive change to how much money more we can make, how much is the GDP of the country. This whole shift, this whole cultural shift, I think, is the biggest driving force to everything that's happening right now. Now you can't say ki, this is getting wrong. The whole culture has become like this. Everyone wants to make more money. Everyone is asking how much this company is making money. When we compare companies, the Fortune 500 companies are the ones who are not impacting, but who are the biggest revenue, right? So this is a big, I think, challenge in the whole industry. Therefore, if this changes, how much more impacting the company is, how much more value addition is the company adding to the society. If this changes, only then it can change. And I think till that time, everyone's gonna sell by manipulating everyone, and this will continue. That's what I feel. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing right or wrong. They're selling, people are buying it. We need to make a choice. We need to make a choice. We are going to use WhatsApp or any other app. Now again, I think even though we have installed Signal, I think almost everyone has installed Signal. How many people are going to move away from WhatsApp? How many people? No one. I
Very
don't think
few.
I
Very
know found anyone
few.
who has actually uninstalled WhatsApp. We are we as a person, we as an individual, give our freedom very easily. We if you see the history of human history, we have always been giving our freedom, right? So we have always been dictated by someone, we have always been governed by someone. So the privacy is the least concern for anyone. It doesn't matter. It's just a hype for some time. We will use WhatsApp and they will monetize us. They'll go $1 trillion, multi-trillion dollar. That's the game, I think.
I think similar is the case for Google, right? We still use Google. Matlab, there have been concerns for privacy and other things, right? Many people have shifted to DuckDuckGo, but still, most of the people still use Google as an search engine, as the most preferred search engine, because there our priority is the search relevance instead of privacy, right? Again, privacy is the least concern there also.
The last thing I would also want to ask all of you is that what advice do you have for any person who's watching this, who's probably an aspiring young, tech entrepreneur, or who's an aspiring product manager? What's your advice for such a person? So, Rasik, we'll want to.
Okay. So my advice is, if it's a tech entrepreneur who's starting out, focus only on what your customers, potential customers would want. See, these are all basic golden rules. I'm not going to be reinventing any new gyan today. So sorry to disappoint, but those are the same basic things said over and over again. Focus on your customer. Try to understand, like go 2-3 layers beneath what they say. Look at their action, their behaviors, their unmet needs, unmet demands, and go deep enough to carve out a positioning which is not really taken over, to carve out a positioning for your service or your product or your brand, which you can control, which you can really grab, and then go and execute well. So the second point then is to go execute really fast, really well. Break things or not, that's aside, like what Varun was saying, but definitely move fast. Move fast because you have to make decisions really fast. You have to make decisions of what not to do even faster than what you want to do. Because it's limited resources. Startup and entrepreneurship is a game of resource management more than anything else. How can you create biggest output, biggest impact with the least resources possible? So be it your own mental bandwidth, the money you have, the time in the day you have, the number of opportunities or meetings people give you, whatever it is, it's all a resource that you have to really master how to manage them well and get an output well. So yes, so execute to the heart, execute very fast. Then the third is, of course, surround yourself with people who support you, encourage you. Majority of the people around you should be like that. A minority of people should also be playing devil's advocate, so that you don't get overboard. You don't get it, up in your head. And so just this few basic things. Really understand the market, understand your customer, see what really is required, and then go execute it fast. And surround yourself with people who encourage you, as well as some who play devil's advocate. And once you have done that, I think that's just the beginning step. You should attend other webinars to understand what to do when you have made it to a certain level. उसके बाद क्या करना चाहिए, उसके लिए there can be another webinar, but at least to starting up, this is important. And uh, yeah, don't miss out on the support from your loved ones, because it's very important you get that support. You have to convince them, whatever it may take, you have to convince them, so that you get some form of support somewhere from your loved ones. Maybe not all, but at least some of them: family, girlfriend, boyfriend, partners, children, whoever, friends. So that support is very important, because this is going to be emotionally draining for you. This journey is going to be emotionally draining. And okay, I just realized whatever I said, it's all very general. It's not about tech entrepreneurship at all. It's all very general. But then entrepreneurship is very general, uh, a skill set, a personality, or an attitude. It has nothing to do with tech as such.
Thank you so much, Rasik. I think reinforcement really helps. And, initially you said sorry to disappoint. I don't think anybody is disappointed by this, because the answer really helps us focus on a lot of, important points. Deep, your.
Okay, so I'm a super non-tech guy. I can't hack a website. I know nothing. I can't code. I am into sales and marketing. So I don't know if Rasik is a technical guy. So he looks after sales and marketing there, I guess.
I'm an MBA. I used to be an engineer, but I'm an MBA. So it's far away from technology.
Exactly. So, so first, I think most people has a confusion that, people has to be a technical to get into tech startup. It's not that. My other two co-founders are super techy. So they are like hardcore technology people. So, they make and I sell. That's how the equation is. So you don't have to be technical to get into technical tech startup. You need to understand the business, from a customer point of view, what exactly they would need, what exactly their requirement is. But then before that, I think, when you get into any space, you need to understand, if you have some kind of understanding about uh, yourself. Even then, like, everyone is discovering themselves, with every day, I guess. But even if you have understood a little bit of yourself, that, okay, I can maybe I'm good at this, but I'm bad at this, right? Some which is bad, it's fine, you can just leave it out. I mean, the way I see is, if I'm weak in tech, and if I put, like, 100, even 100 hours into tech per month, to understand and learn, I can never be better than someone else who's already has been doing it for 10 years. It doesn't make sense for me. So what I'm better at, I just put more of my energy and time into it, and then I try to develop my skills, right? So you need to find, if you can find out what exactly gives you, good have a good sense of, a fulfillment kind of thing. If it is relationship, if it is, giving some value to people, whatever it is, that space you can take in the company, and then, do that, right? So that's a really best thing I think anyone can discover, and, do that. And second is, I think it has to be a good journey. Means it has to be a beautiful journey, that, every day has to be fun. Like Varun mentioned, I think I very much concur with his view. Means I really like his view, that it should be like, breaking things and going, and, making, tomorrow we are going to make a what $1 billion or not, right? It should be fun. When you look back to the journey, it's about, team co-founders. It's been 10 years for us, let's say 11 years, since the day we met in college. It has been beautiful, it has been a great journey, and then we really look forward to more challenges and more things coming together and solving. It has to be, the journey has to be good. And yeah, so you'll be finding a lot of problems, a lot of things will come by, when you feel like, like Rasik was saying, this is the same thing with almost everyone. You feel like, okay, what am I doing here? It doesn't make sense at all. And there were times for me when I was feeling, security is not what I really want to actually do. But it's about not security what I'm doing, I'm actually adding value to, the enterprises, where exactly they are taking care of customers data, right? So I'm indirectly helping a lot of millions of people indirectly. The impact might not be visible directly, but it is there. You can sense it, right? When there are other companies being hacked, and your customers, thank god, they are safe to as of now, and it makes sense for you that you're delivering value, right? So yeah, I think that's what it is. Again, it's very general, on and off, I'm saying. But I think the journey has to be good, and you need to be, it has to be that every day it motivates you, it's fulfilling, you're trying to solve something. And yeah, I guess.
Thanks, Veep. Prince, your views on this?
So what I think is that, at every stage you are at, right? Whether you are in a company, or you are doing a startup, or you are in the growth phase of the startup, or you are just starting up. Uh, what we can, I just wanted to mention कि we need to set our priorities straight. ठीक है? That means कि अगर now if you are starting up, at that point of time you need to understand कि priority क्या है. Priority उस समय ये रहता है कि you need to understand the customer problems, right? कि you should be aware of what the customer or whether customer is realizing the problem or not. You need the second thing is that people once you start a company, once you start doing anything, you often you do not prioritize happiness also. कि हैप्पीनेस को तो हम छोड़ देते हैं कि हम तो काम कर रहे हैं, हम तो स्टार्टअप कर रहे हैं, हम तो ना वी आर बर्निंग द मिडनाइट ऑयल एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. हमने हैप्पीनेस को भूल जाते हैं बिल्कुल कि हम हैप्पी भी रह सकते हैं कुछ काम करते हुए. वो इसी वजह से होता है ना कि हम हमारी प्रायोरिटी स्ट्रेट नहीं है. हम ऐसा होता है कि दिन में 4 मीटिंग कर लिए, दिन में 8 मीटिंग कर लिए, ऐसा लगता है कि काम हो गया, है ना? हम अगर देखें कि इम्पैक्ट आ भी रहा है कि नहीं उस काम का, है ना, वॉट एवर वी आर डूइंग उसका इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है नहीं. तो if we really start putting things into a priority framework कि देखो इससे मेरा ये इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है, इससे मेरा ये हैप्पीनेस आ रहा है, इससे मेरा लेट्स से कस्टमर की ज़्यादा अंडरस्टैंडिंग आ रही है, इससे मैं एक्चुअली लेट्स से मनी अर्न कर रहा हूँ, तो वो अगर हम फिगर आउट कर लेना तो हमारी लाइफ सॉर्टेड रहेगी. तो उसमें फिर हम गोवा भी जा सकते हैं, उसमें हम कस्टमर से भी बात कर सकते हैं, उसमें हम अपने गर्लफ्रेंड से भी बात कर सकते हैं 1 घंटा, और फिर भी हमें लगा कि हाँ हम प्रोग्रेस भी कर रहे हैं. नहीं तो क्या होता है कि इतने वी लूज ट्रैक ऑफ एवरीथिंग एंड वी आर जस्ट इन मोशन एंड वी आर रियली नॉट मेकिंग प्रोग्रेस. तो प्रायोरिटी सेट करना बहुत जरूरी है जिंदगी में कि वट एवर वी आर मेकिंग एन एफर्ट फॉर, आर वी अचीविंग दैट और नॉट. ऐसा नहीं है कि ना कि हम आज एक कस्टमर से बात किए, कल किसी और चीज़ में फंस गए, परसों किसी और चीज़ में फंस गए और हम सब कुछ भूल. जैसे क्या होता है कि हम कुछ कर रहे हैं, है ना, हम स्टार्टअप कर रहे हैं और बीच में मान लो कि घर पे कोई बीमार हो गया, है ना, तो आर वी फैक्टरिंग दैट ऑल्सो कि हमें ये इस मान लो जो घर पे बीमार गया उसको भी हमें टाइम देना है या नहीं, ये मेरी जिंदगी की प्रायोरिटी में आता है कि नहीं, राइट. तो ये सब चीज़ें अगर हम कर लेंगे ना तो हमारी प्रायोरिटी मतलब हमारी लाइफ सॉर्टेड रहेगी. तो वैसे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में भी यही है कि वेदर यू आर बिल्डिंग अ प्रोडक्ट फॉर एंटरप्राइज और फॉर अ B2C, है ना, मतलब डायरेक्टली कंज्यूमर्स और फॉर अ स्टार्टअप. तो मतलब ये फर्स्ट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द कस्टमर दैट यू आर सॉल्विंग फॉर, वेदर द कस्टमर एंड यू आर अलाइंड एट द प्रॉब्लम यू आर सॉल्विंग फॉर. और थर्ड इज कि तुम्हारी मेंटल या जो भी है ना तुम्हारा टाइम, तुम जहाँ पे भी एफर्ट लगा रहे हो वो सही जगह पे जा रहा है कि नहीं. वो है ना एक प्रिंसिपल भी है 20-80 प्रिंसिपल, मतलब एवरीबडी नोज दैट बट नोबडी फॉलोज दैट. तो दैट्स द थिंग दैट आई वुड जस्ट इंक्लूड. बाकी तो जेनेरिक ही रहती है ये चीज़ें.
A lovely insight, Prince. Thank you so much. I think Varun, your advice for
So I think the other panelists have given a lot of solid advice, a lot of which I agree with. But before I launch into my advice, एक थोड़ा मतलब for whoever is watching this right now or later, uh, a lot of times these things you will not apply. So you will listen to all of this, maybe you will remember this, but until unless you go through that motion, right, wherein the prince is talking about the 80-20 principle, या घर पे कोई बीमार हुआ है, maybe something happened in Prince's life, right, where somebody was ill and he had to make a choice between giving time to work or giving time at work, time at home. So just saying that these things may or may not strike to you right now or straight away, but in terms of advice, as you know, Rasik was saying, it's regurgitated a lot of times, and yeah, so just I mean, kind of keep it handy is what I would say, and keep revisiting the same thing rather than reading 10 books or attending 10 webinars. Coming to my specific piece of advice, I think first thing is really question yourself, why are you doing this? Write it down. I think a lot of times entrepreneurs tell themselves impact वगैरह, but यार अगर आप impact कर रहे हो तो आप not for profit भी चला सकते हो. You can run a not for profit, you can run a NGO, you can run your idea as a small project. You don't have to commercialize it. So be very honest. It might be you're running it because you want to feature under Forbes 30 under 30. That's a very fine goal. That's a very valid goal. But at least be bluntly clear to yourself and your founders in the very least, if not to your girlfriend or your mother or your dad. Yeah, I'm doing it for money. I'm doing it for X, Y, Z. Apart from the impact, right? Uh, if in nothing case, right, अगर आप किसी भी स्टार्टअप को देखो, वो इम्पैक्ट एटलीस्ट इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए, फाउंडर्स के लिए और एम्प्लॉयज के लिए तो कर ही देता है, चाहे बाहर की दुनिया के लिए ना करे. So wherein certain startups only create massive value for the investors and the employees, the first employees and the founders, and not really as much for the outside world. So be very honest about this. Keep revisiting this from time to time. It will also help you get through the tough times when you kind of have a very solid answer of why you're putting yourself through massive amounts of pain. Second, I think your fundamental skill set as an entrepreneur is resourcefulness. It's not tech, it's not product, it's not sales, it's not marketing. It is resourcefulness beyond anything else. You don't need to come up with the right answer for marketing. but you need to have the resourcefulness to find the person who has the right answer. So you don't need to be a techie, but you need to be resourceful enough to find the techie who will build that app for you. So don't, I think some panelists mentioned you don't need to be a techie to be a tech co-founder. I agree with that 100%, but you need to be resourceful. You cannot trade resourcefulness for any other skill, in my opinion, as a co-founder of a startup. Last, from a tech perspective or a product startup perspective, build as late as possible, especially if you're building on Android or iOS. Like, this is very practical, to the point advice that I would be giving, but building as late as possible means build the business first, build the operations first, serve the customer in any which way, unless until your product, your service or your startup is centered around tech, core tech है कि आपके बिना कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता है. That's a different game. But if you can serve your customer, your target audience, without building a single product, or by using no code or as little technology as possible, that's much better. Build it as late. And lastly, I would say, as an entrepreneur, build a brand. I think it doesn't get talked about as much. You have to build a brand to hire, to raise money, to get customers, anything. And even if, I think one of the key outcomes that you need to look at a startup, even if it fails, right? What is the worst case scenario? And I think everybody thinks of a worst case scenario. One of your worst case scenarios is, even if I don't build a company, I would end up building a brand at the end of this journey, which would help me, navigate my life from there on afterwards better. Because I have built a brand around something. I know something, and people in the market or LinkedIn world know me for something. So these would be my four pieces of advice.
Thank you so much, Varun. And on that note, we have time for about 1 to 2 audience questions. So I think Sindhu had a question. Sindhu, would you want to unmute your mic and ask it yourself, or would you want me to read it out?
Hi Aditya. Hey, I'm outside. I can ask the question, but if there's any disturbance, feel free to mute me and then you can go for the question. Okay. So my question was, I come from a tech background, and lately I've also moved to non-profits. Right now I'm working for Vadvani Foundation because I'm very interested in entrepreneurship. So my right now I'm actually wondering what's the importance of a product manager in any tech startups, because there's this common notion that product managers are not needed, right? Like, nobody asks you to show up. It's just like a lot of companies also just work without having a product manager. So I'm wondering, and a lot of you have mentioned actually the importance of product. Again, there's a lot of skills which is non-tech, but I'm specifically talking about like what's the importance of a product manager and what are the kind of skill sets you found helpful, even though you didn't have it. Like, you hired those people because you felt like in a tech company you really need those skills. So yeah, my question was that. But thank you so much for this amazing session.
So, okay, we don't have a product manager in our company yet. We have 4 products. So it says dedicated product manager. So my other 2 co-founders, who manages the whole product thing themselves. So what we have here is, we have so we have got a team who delivers the whole product, who integrates, who has a support team and everything. So we get a feedback from them, and that feedback is channelized on prioritized based on the how many customers give what kind of feedback, what feature is to be prioritized, and then we build on that. But having said that, so your question is basically on if there is a need of product manager or not, right? What I understand is
correct. The need, and also, if not the product manager itself, like what are the skills that you need? Because the role is very it's very generic, right? Product manager. So what are the skills basically? If not a product manager, what are the kind of skills you need to have a successful product?
Okay, so one basic skill I think is you need to talk with customers a lot. You need to understand, you need to listen to them, you need to understand their pain point. A lot of time what happens is a customer is saying something that he wants, but eventually he doesn't want that, or she doesn't want that. The actual thing that they need is something else, but they're saying something else, right? So you need to really understand, talk to a lot of people and try to find out what they exactly need, and that need, how you can exactly translate to your product. So it's not just about UI and UX, right? So it's about what exactly you are trying to deliver it through your product. So let's say, for example, when I was in Paytm, we had this metro thing, this integration going on, and we had a big problem of you can recharge your metro card on a multiple of 100 only, right? And how do you communicate this to the user? And it was a big, it's a very small thing right now. I think there's a better communication already there in place right now. But how do you communicate to the user that, when you make a payment, you have to either make a payment of 100, 200, in the multiple of 100, right? And even though we tried multiple experiments, so before making a payment, before entering the amount, we just put it there itself, 100, 200, you need to put this amount, and only you can recharge it. Even though we were seeing that, people trying to put 55 rupees and then trying to click on that, it didn't go further, right? So how do you educate that? So we figured out that whatever users were trying to actually make a payment on metro, we send them push notification on a small video trying to see that, you need to make this kind of thing, and then that no one read that video, and we moved out of that. And then whenever they clicked on the metro thing, then and there itself it comes out, then you can recharge with. So we tried multiple things, eventually we succeeded at some point, and that whole messaging thing went there. So it's more of like, experiments and, A/B testing you need to do when you find the requirement from the customer. And when you find the requirement from the customer, or when you find there is a this kind of information that you need to give it to the customer, right? So you have to do a lot of different experiments, and then eventually you define some runtime for that experiment. Let's say, 2 weeks typically is the minimum time, let's say, or you can define that runtime. This is a formula, in fact, for defining runtime as well, how much runtime you need to have for any kind of experiments. So yeah, and based on that, you can exactly come up with. So for skills, what skills do you need for to become a product manager? So you need to have a very good understanding of about the customer. You need to be a little bit good in terms of UI UX as well, to understand what exactly, what buttons should be there, what color buttons should be there, what where to place and everything, right? So I moved away from product management, so it will be difficult for me to say, but I think Varun can say a little bit more on what exactly he has been doing it. Yeah.
So I think first of all, I think it really depends on the company, really, right? Whether what are you building, what are you selling it to? So if you look at an example of Google and Google product managers versus Facebook product managers, the roles are different. Uh, Especially with Google search like products, because they are engineering first, because engineers come up with what else is possible in terms of features. Yes, product managers play a role over there as well, but it is not the same role as product managers at Facebook, or not the same role as product managers at Oracle, or probably a Get My Parking, or a Apna, or a Bijak, or a Swiggy. So it really that role. I think what rang true for me was Ashish Tulsian from Possessed. I met him earlier last year, and he said we don't have a product manager role in the company. What we have done is we have analyzed what typically the product manager is supposed to do. What are the roles? You thinly slice that out, like an onion. You would slice it out and assign that roles to different people depending on how logical it is for your company. And some key things are requirement gathering. Some key things might be coming up with solutioning. Other companies also run product managers, project managers. So ultimately, for a startup, I think somebody has to play that role, and the first definitely is the founders. It has to come from the founders who are on the ground, talking to the customers day in and day out, getting those insights, bringing them into the business. That is sort of the 0 to 1 p.m. And probably the 1 to 5 p.m. will be slightly different, and the 5 to 10 p.m. and the 10 to 50 p.m. will be different all along the journey. But there's no cookie cutter answer to it, and I would strongly disagree with nobody invited the product managers. I think it's a very critical role. In now, it may get dressed up as a different title. It may get assigned to somebody else. So for example, Amazon has a single-threaded ownership concept, where the developer himself is supposed to. I worked with somebody who was a PM at Amazon, and I got no specs from him. As a developer, he would basically say, oh, we have to make a screen which has this functionality, a very 5-minute rough high level spec. And I was supposed to ask all the questions, and he made that as a rule in the team, because he wanted a single threaded owner, wherein if I wanted a design element to make that screen happen, even as a backend dev, I was supposed to resource everything together and get it built. So having a product manager, not having a product manager is very, very contextual. What kind of engineers do you have? What kind of founders you are? All those sort of things. And definitely there is no cookie cutter answer to this at all. I think every company is very different. Ultimately, like every human being is different. And yeah, you need to define it for yourself.
Thank you so much, Varun and Deep.
Thank you so much, Sindhu, for asking that question, and lovely answers yet again by Deep and Varun. So, on that note, I think it's 6 p.m., and I would want to thank all the panelists, Varun, Rasik, Prince, and Deep, for coming in and giving us their valuable time and insights. I, as a young entrepreneur, learned a lot. And I'm pretty sure the people who are watching right now, the people who will be watching this recorded version later on, they all will learn a lot from this. I'll take a quick minute to share the contact details of our panelists in case you would want to contact them and seek insights on any of the things that have been discussed, or any of the things that um, are specific to your problem or your issue which you would want to get some answers or some insights on. And with this, thank you all so very much yet again. I hope all of you have a lovely evening and a lovely year ahead.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Aditya.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank
night.
you.